despair because you're so sad for these people. You go from that to just almost like autopilot at times. And we get him off the bus, and the next thing I know, there's a wheelchair bus that's rolling in. And all the people on the bus, they're all from New Orleans, are in wheelchairs. They had come from a nursing home where they had been sitting in chest deep water for I don't know how long. You could smell like it was foul. They can't get up by themselves. They weren't rescued for I don't know how long. It could have been a day, but they were covered in their own feces, and they didn't have time to clean these people up. How you clean them up? You're in a flood. They just put them on the buses and shipped them here. And the smell was horrible, but I didn't care. I just didn't care. I needed them to feel okay. They didn't know where they were. They were looking around. They were so sweet, which made it even harder, It's like, at least cuss me out. Maybe I can just, if you're mean, it doesn't hurt so bad. They were so sweet, and they're looking around, and the building's huge because we're at the Assembly Center, and the little lady says, "Baby, where am I?" And I said, "You're at LSU. You're in Baton Rouge." And I said, "We're going to take good care of you." And, and she said, "I know." She pulled me to her, like, "Come see." And she said, "I know I stink." I said, "I don't care. It's okay. We're going to get you taken care of. We're going to get you cleaned up and some fresh linens and, And she was so embarrassed, and it made me feel worse, right? She hands me a bag, and it's a little, like, you could tell it was hand knitted, like a little tote bag. And she said, "This is all I've got." And, meaning this is all the personal belongings that she was able to save. And she said, "You can look in there." And I looked in there, and it was a little, like, what are the small pictures? Not a 5x7, a 3x5. And it was of her grandson who had died. Right? Story just gets worse. But no, I'm just saying it was painful. But it was of her grandson who had died, and it had been floating in the water. It was ruined. I actually took that picture, and I told her, I said, "Do you mind if I try and do something with this? I work not far from here, and if you let me take it for the night, just let me try and save this picture for you." And we went and we found out that if you put them in the freezer, that it can help save, some of the pictures. And it actually did help preserve some of it. So, but we went from that heart-wrenching, I want to now scream at Brandy because I'm like, this pact is not working for me, And guess what happens? I walk in the Assembly Center. I look to my right, and all I see is body bags. And there's a big curtain, and it was, partially pulled. And I was like, wait a minute. These are full. Wait, and it's registering with me that they don't have anywhere to put the dead bodies, so they're now stacking them. And I'm like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. Don't stack a body. I don't know. It's disrespectful. Don't do it. One of the coroners comes up and he says, "Hey, give me a hand." And it was like, basically, "Go help me move this body." I said, "No, I'm sorry." I said, "I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I can't do it. I just can't do it." And now I'm about to lose it because it's one thing after another. It's just so sad, man. But then guess what happens? I walk in. And the Assembly Center's huge, and they have cots all lined up. They have volunteer doctors from all over the country coming in to help. And lo and behold, I look over, and I see Nina. Nina's real name was Walter. He sometimes would dress up be a man. Sometimes he would dress up as a woman, call himself Nina. He walked around in scrubs and a white lab coat. He was not a doctor. But over the years, we all knew him. He was a frequent flyer. In fact, he's deceased now. He choked on a honey bun and died. That's a true story. I'm not going to laugh. Anyway, Walter, he was the type that would go up into Baton Rouge General into the waiting room, and he would clear, and they have like 2-hour wait time. He would clear out the entire waiting room because he had stolen a prescription pad from Earl K. Long Hospital. And he was triaging all the patients and sending them on with prescriptions. He's not a doctor. Well, guess who's in the PMAC triaging patients? Nina. I said, oh, hell no. And then right as I see him putting his prescription pad down, he goes and lays in one of the cots. So I walked past the cot. I kicked the end of it. I said, get your ass up. And I went over to this neurologist that was from Arizona that was here volunteering. He was kind of in charge of that section. I nudged him with my elbow. I said, sir, just a little bit of info. That's one of our regular psych patients over there. He's not a doctor. You might need to do something about that. He was like, what? Like, so evidently Nina had been there for like 12 hours. So we're now outside crying, laughing because Nina done took care of the whole assembly center. All you got to do is give Nina a prescription pad, and everybody's gonna be gone. Your whole waiting room's gonna be cleared out. Your wait time goes from 2.5 hours to 1 minute. We're like, what happened? And he didn't even have a prescription pad from that hospital, which was the funniest part. But true story, he choked on a honey bun. He was sitting in the waiting room, I think at Our Lady of the Lake. He went to the vending machine, got a honey bun. Next thing you know, he's coding. He's on a ventilator, and the joke was, it's just a joke. Everybody was like, hey, can you stick your hand in there and turn that vent off? Haha. But not to make fun of his death, but, I have a sense of humor. I was a paramedic for many years, and we all have a very warped sense of humor. Because something else we did was when the new residents would come, to train at Earl K. Long, we would put Nina in the in the OB-GYN room in stirrups and tell the resident, hey, you have a female with whatever, she's having an abdominal pain, blah, blah, blah. In room whatever. They would go in there and lift the sheet up, and she's a he. And look, this has nothing to do with being transvestite or anything. This has to do with Nina. Nina was a frequent flyer. Nina was the type that would, I'll be honest, pull his pants down, lean over, shit on the wall, turn the fan on, so when we got there, he was blowing it on us. It was that kind of thing. Yeah, I had some good times with Nina. Yeah. I had some good times at EMS. Y'all, I'm not joking. Like, there's so many things that happened. Like, me and my partner were sitting at an intersection right by the Baton Rouge General, and all of a sudden, there's a ball of fire running towards our ambulance. And it really was. It was a woman on fire. The meth house blew up, and she caught on fire. And so I'm laughing because I'm not laughing at her. It's sad, but the meth house blew up. She caught on fire. She's critical. Luckily we were right around the from the hospital with the burn center. We, do everything we can, get her over to the hospital. We get out in the ambulance, wrapping things up. And the song She's on Fire comes on. What's the chances of that? And if you don't laugh at that, like, you don't have a sense of humor, because that's kind of odd, but, it's funny at the same time. When I say it's a coping mechanism, it's not just that. It's balance. Laughter creates balance, and we laughed at all the inappropriate things, and I actually still do. I had some fun times there. In sad times there, and, the Derek Todd Lee serial killer, I went on some calls that he, some murders he committed, and I also transported him as a patient. I can talk about him now because he's deceased. I'm not violating HIPAA. But I actually transported him. I was on the SWAT team at the time, and they told us, they said, EM5, you're responding to Parish Prison. This is before he went to Angola. You're responding to Parish Prison. We do not want you stopping at any red lights. Police officers had all the intersections blocked. And they said, and you're not going into medical. You're going to go straight to the cell of this prisoner. And be advised, this is a high-profile case. So we're, assuming it's Derek Todd Lee. Well, what had happened was, since he had been there, he hadn't used much of his phone time. And this particular day, he used all of it. So they thought he was calling us faking chest pain to set us up to ambush us. So they had all the police officers block off all the intersections. Well, the parish prison to the city jail, right, to Earl K. Long is exactly 4 miles. So we had 4 miles of hauling ass and getting to the ramp at Earl K. Long. And but here's the kicker. So we get him in the back of the truck. I put the monitor, EKG monitor on him because he's saying he has chest pain. I can't not check that. And then I'm like, holy shit, he's really having a legit cardiac issue. Like, this dude is, like, he's going to need a defibrillator, which he did. He ended up going to big charity in New Orleans. But, but he's legit. So now, I got to do everything. I got to do a 12 lead, and I have to start an IV. And when I pulled the needle out and the tourniquet to start his IV, he went batshit crazy on me. Now, he's shackled. He's shackled to the stretcher, and there were 6 SWAT team members in the back with me. And he looked up at me, and I thought I was looking at Satan, if there's such a thing. He looked through my soul. He's pissed. And all I could think about was what I had seen of his murder victims. You mean to tell me you can mutilate somebody with a screwdriver, but this little bitty needle's going to scare you? Okay, let me get a bigger one. And I did. There's the only patient I ever did that to. Never took out anything on anybody, but I don't know. It wasn't me. It was just instinct. Maybe I thought the bigger needle was needed anyway. But I did. I got a bigger needle. And one of the officers said, if you even look at her, he said, I'll shoot you in the face. Inappropriate, yeah. But at the time, it kind of fit what was going on, because he was being a total jerk. And he did this thing with his mouth where it looked like he was going to spit. And I said, dude, don't even think, don't do it. Don't think about it, because you're going to totally get your ass whipped. It's not going to be by me. Just don't do it. And so he didn't. But I did. I stuck him with a big fat 14 gauge, and we pulled up on the ramp at Earl K. Long, and they had police officers lined up. Like, we had to walk through them to get in there. Well, lo and behold, best doctor for the job was there, and that was Dr. Godby. He has a military background. He's actually, I think he's still the medical director over EMS. But he's little, but you don't want to mess with him. And so Derek said something to him, got aggressive, and Dr. Godby pulled a sheet, like a big twin sheet, and within 2 seconds, he did this whoop, 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 had it like wrapped up and around Derek's chest, and had him tied back on that stretcher. I guess it was a military move, but I was some kind of impressed. I'm like, he doesn't need no help. Like, this dude he got threatened, and he had him under control in like 2 seconds. I'm like, we're not needed here. Let's go. Dr. Godby got this. And when he did it, Derek calmed down. He was like, okay, I'm not going to mess with him. But turns out he actually did have a cardiac issue, and I think that's what he died of. But we brought him to Earl K. All prisoners go to Earl K., and then they had to transfer him to Big Charity in New Orleans. He did so much destruction in Baton Rouge to some of the murders. I mean, it's terrible. And I still can't wrap my head around how a human being can do what he did and what others do to another human being. I don't know. There's, what I can say is it's what I call usually a spirit attachment that's, influencing that, which I'll talk about later. But, yeah, I'm going to start another audio.